This is Rumble with Michael Moore, and thank you for listening in here. We have just surpassed our 3 millionth download. We've only been doing this for 6 weeks.
Wow.
It's like we're so, we were told this would take like a year and a half before we get to this number. So thank you to all of you who are listening and supporting us, and thank you to our underwriters today, especially our underwriter, Nat Geo. I think we used to call them National Geographic Magazine, National Geographic Films. Oh my God, how long has National Geographic been with us? Probably for more than 100 years, more than maybe 150. I mean, this is one of the oldest magazines in America, and now they do all this great work making documentaries, and many of my friends have made documentaries with them, and they're just a fine group to work with. And they've got this film that's nominated for the Oscars in just a week or two. The film is called The Cave, and it's made by a wonderful filmmaker. Firas Fayed is his name. He made a film that was nominated, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, Last Man in Aleppo. He's covered this tragic war in Syria for many years now. And this most recent film of his, The Cave, is a powerful look at a sort of a makeshift hospital. I guess I could say it's makeshift because they're trying to operate a hospital in the middle of a war. And it's the first hospital in, I think, Syria, really, ever to be directed by a woman. So it's a great documentary if you get a chance to see it. And I thank the filmmakers, and I thank Nat Geo for underwriting today's episode. And of course, their underwriting implies no solicitation or sponsorship of the candidate that I happen to be traveling with here, but they give voice to a lot of people. But with me here, hours in almost really, before the Iowa Caucus, is Jane Sanders. Dr. Jane Sanders is, as you probably know, married to a man by the name of Bernie Sanders. And and she's here to tell us everything.
Not everything.
Well, not yes. Oh, please, no, actually. But let me just thank you, first of all, for being here.
Thank you for having me, Michael. It's great to see you again.
When I last saw you in Queensbridge Park back in the fall for that massive rally.
That was wonderful,
wasn't it? AOC was there and I was there, and we officially endorsed Bernie.
Yes.
It was not long after he was in the hospital, and I said to you, how's he doing?
Mm-hmm.
And you said, these morning walks we go on, when he was in there, they cleaned out everything.
The arteries. He's now working on 3 cylinders, and we didn't know that he only had 2 working for a while.
So, and you made some reference to that the blood was flowing like I don't know if you said the Amazon River or so. I just had some, and what you said to me is that you now cannot keep up with him on the morning walks.
Oh
and
my gosh.
And then you said, if you do happen to talk to Bernie about this, just give him to slow
down a little bit.
Slow the walk down so I can keep up.
Really, I think having been a lifelong athlete, he just sprung back to action, and he didn't realize, he had told me just before the heart attack, he left to go to Nevada, and I wasn't going with him. I was doing some television ads. He said, I don't know, I'm tired, and I hope I'm not getting old. And I said, well, no, you're fine. We'll, you should have a checkup. So then the heart attack happened, and I sped out there at the first plane, and I was very worried. And then I walk into the room, and he's there working, and he's sitting up, and he's just doing. And I said, how are you feeling? And he said, I'm feeling much better, much. It was like the next morning. So it was a surprise, but I guess it was a blessing. Because you know what? You remember AOC said it was a wake-up call for her. Yeah. And I think it was a wake-up call for a lot of people to recognize that, if Bernie wasn't in the race, would we be having these conversations? Would the bar be so much lower? So, and then I think it nudged everybody that was keeping an open mind, listening to everybody, that they realized they already had their candidate for sure. Right.
I'll tell you, that's the way it feels here in Iowa. I'm on a 12-day I call our journey with Bernie here. And it's, coming to an end. But I'll tell you, now that Bernie is the front runner in New Hampshire and Iowa, not by a lot, I may not want to caution everybody, don't be having the end zone dance out on the 5-yard line.
Nope.
There's a lot of work to do, and this thing can change in 24 hours. So everybody has to be on top of this and bringing 10 people with them to the polls.
Yep. They can't just ask people to caucus. Bring them with you.
You have to bring them, make a party out of it, have dinner beforehand, go drinking afterwards, whatever it is. Make it a communal event, because that is what democracy is. It is a very large community event. But we've been waiting all week. So I was with Bernie last weekend here. And we're like, I said, what do you think? Now that this Emerson poll from last Sunday was amazing. And the CNN poll, number one with non-white voters across the country.
Yeah.
Wow. And I'm thinking, okay, Bernie, I said, so where's the attack going to come from? Which are we looking, east, west, north? And he said, I don't know but I said, I think it's just going to be, they're just going to keep pounding the same horse, which is Bernie can't beat Trump. Bernie can't win.
Right.
Bernie. And so these, Jonathan Chait in New York Magazine this week, David Frum everywhere, pundit extraordinaire, not William Salatin in Slate.
And the ad.
And the
ad negative ad, the first negative ad by dark money in this election. And my hope is that all the Democratic candidates will stand up and say, we don't want dark money in this campaign.
I saw that ad last night. That was stunning. This is a Democratic Party PAC.
Establishment. Yeah.
The establishment Democrats running this.
Mark Mellman is
awful.
Yes.
Mean-spirited, untrue ad to stop. They're so nervous. But those people I mentioned, those pundits I mentioned, they were all either supporters of the Iraq War or worked in the Bush White House. I mean, how are you, I'd like to hear what your answer to this is, because the more they say this, and then what we're seeing with our own eyes and hearing with our own ears here in Iowa, it's like, could they be just wrong again? Would they really want to embarrass themselves another time here now?
That's the concern. These pundits, the Democratic establishment talks to itself. It's very insular, and they have the same interests. I mean, a lot of them are quite wealthy in terms of what they're paid. They are interested. They can't seem to believe that people support Bernie, because nobody they know does. So they don't get out of the Beltway, Michael. You know this. They just talk to each other and say, this is my worldview. And they don't realize in a democracy, in a vibrant democracy, such as exists in Iowa and New Hampshire and across this country, people actually are thinking things through. They're paying attention to all the candidates. They're open-minded, and they're not following their perspective. I think Americans have learned that they can't count on the pundit class or the establishment of either party to tell them what the reality is, because, as you say, they've been wrong so often.
Yeah. And while, none of us should put everything into polls, but or belief in them, but consistently now for months, Bernie's been number one with Latino voters. You never read that anywhere.
Right.
With young voters, 52%, 56% I saw yesterday, 70% in Texas of 18 to 29-year-olds are for Bernie. It's amazing to witness this.
It's interesting that he is doing so well when you talk about them saying that he can't beat Trump. I mean, that's demonstrably by their own polls wrong. And they say since 2016, he was beating Trump better than Clinton was consistently. And then since then, anytime there's been a poll that says Democratic candidates against Trump, he's always beaten him, sometimes by more than anybody else. So they just don't care about reality. They have their own narrative. They want to sell it. And they're purchasing ads that are ridiculous when they say, well, Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania won't vote for a socialist. Well, in fact, he won Wisconsin and Michigan in the last
Right.
election.
That is
so
correct.
that is, they don't care what the facts are. And you notice some of those people that are in there used to be paid staffers on other campaigns.
Yeah.
So these are not just your regular Iowans.
And just that you brought up Michigan, as I know, I think a lot of people listening to
Yes.
my podcast, it's a drinking game whenever I mention Michigan or Flint, you take a drink. But the town I live in Michigan, there's only like 14,000 people, and it's a rural town that voted for George W. Bush in 2000 and 2004. In 2016, in the Michigan primary, our town voted 70% Bernie, 30% Hillary in 2016.
Yeah.
2 percentage points more than Ann Arbor, which is
Wow.
the liberal
Wow.
bastion
Yeah.
in Michigan.
Well, I think people don't understand. They want to put him in a pigeonhole to say, oh, he's too left. He's only for the left. In fact, working class people understand he's on their side.
That's
He's-
right.
Yeah.
And they don't wake up in the morning and define themselves as, oh, I'm on the left, or I'm
Right.
on the right, or
Right.
I'm on the, they're trying to get by.
Yeah.
They're trying to get by. And let me ask you this. Why'd you let him run? Because he has said that this was a joint decision.
Well, we went back and forth quite a bit
you did? Yeah.
until February, just saying, should we do it? Should we do it? And I think it came down to we have to defeat this very, very dangerous president. The country can't stand another 4 years of Donald Trump. Our democracy will be in great jeopardy. And so the feeling was, if we don't do everything that we can to defeat this president, how are we going to look our kids and our grandkids in the eyes and say we stepped back? Right. And for Bernie, everything he can do is run for president. We would have been fine if we felt that somebody else was capable of beating Trump and transforming this country quickly, as opposed to beating Trump and just going back to the way it was, which is what brought us Trump. So we felt very strongly that he was the right person, and it was his calling to do so.
And you were 100% behind this, and
100% behind it from the standpoint of it's the right thing to do.
Right.
I mean, we
doesn't mean that it's easy.
Well, it's an honor, but it is definitely, I mean, our kids and our grandkids don't see him as much, and that's hard.
Right.
It's hard for all of us.
There has to be a certain loneliness to this for you and for him, too.
Yeah.
But,
especially with this impeachment, too. So I'm in Iowa. He's in Washington today. So there's been very little time to go back and forth to go home. So we now have some of the kids coming with us on the road. They're door knocking. Dave and his children, Ella and Dylan, are door knocking in Iowa today.
Right.
And they spent the morning with us. They're on their own in the afternoon.
Right. Thinking about this over the years, how Bernie has always been so far ahead of the curve. You go back to that photograph of him in 1963 of being arrested at a civil rights demonstration when he's in college in Chicago. So many times, and you've been with him for a very long time.
Yes, since 81. 40 years, Jace, almost.
Yeah, okay. You're not one of these people that actually counts the days, the minutes, the hours.
No.
Yeah.
We usually don't remember our anniversary until the next day or something. We say, we both of us look at each other and say, you forgot our anniversary, because we're too busy.
Right. But it was a lonely road for him.
Yeah.
And you were on that road with him where people criticized him, mocked him. What do you mean, gay marriage or this or that or whatever?
It's not bad while it's happening, because he knows he lives his life on values and principles that say that human rights are the most important thing, that humanity needs to be at the forefront of our thinking, that diversity is the strength of America, that justice, his mind has a foundation of justice, whether it's racial justice, social justice, environmental justice, economic justice. But what is hard is to see after the fact that people are saying, when he's led on all these issues, he's been on the right side. I couldn't be prouder of him. But then to see them say, he was never there for civil rights, even though he led the first sit-in the Northeast at the University of Chicago, even though he proclaimed a parade for gay rights in 1985.
In Burlington as the mayor. What bothers me is when people say he wasn't there. We don't know. He doesn't really have a history. He doesn't care about when they're lying.
diversity. They're lying.
Yeah. There's
and they're
photographic
misrepresenting.
evidence of him, for instance, that sit-in
Yes.
In college there. There's pictures of this.
Yeah, by Danny
I've posted
Lyons,
them.
who's a civil rights photographer, a great
Right.
civil rights
It's
photographer.
So, I found it's best just to ignore these people when they just, because they have nothing else. They can't debate them on the issue.
But when the media repeats it and repeats it and repeats it, it becomes, the media comes up with a fact or believes the establishment facts and then repeat them and then people believe it. That's what's hard. The fight isn't really hard for him or for me. We're so used to it paving new ground and pushing the envelope that's okay. We know that there's going to be pushback in order to move a country or move a community. But lies, that's one of the worst things about politics today.
Has there ever been a time where you said to him through all these years and all these issues, Bernie, maybe you better dial it back a notch or two? Or the opposite, have you ever said to him, I know you and I know you can, it's okay to go further. It's okay. I'm with you. You can take that risk.
He's never needed my permission, and I've never needed to tell him to go further. He tends to go faster than me. He brings me along. I bring to the table a more, not conservative, but a more...
You're the Irish end of this
equation.
I'm
the Irish end of this. I'm like, I'm very much supportive of people. So I always excuse individual actions saying, well, they don't know as much. We just need to bring them along and try to convince people and persuade people by talking with them. And he calls them out. So I think we are the yin and the yang on that.
Which is necessary, probably.
Yeah.
Is it okay to make this statement? You probably know Bernie better than anyone.
I think it probably is.
Okay, safe to say.
Yes.
All right. So I think people would really love, because I've seen pieces of Bernie that other people don't see. And Bernie has this great sense of humor. And
he does, and people don't know it.
No.
It's interesting because in Vermont, people got to know him when he first won as mayor by 10 votes. Everybody thought it was a fluke and, oh my gosh, he's a Democratic socialist. What are we going to do with this in the mayor's seat? And people learned in Burlington very quickly who Bernie was because he was very outspoken on the issues and did everything he could to improve the quality of life for Burlington residents. And in the next election, he had doubled voter turnout and had won by quite a bit more. When he ended up stopping running as mayor, he was at 70% favorability.
Wow.
So then he ran for Congress, and again, people were like, oh, I don't know, because it was the whole state. He lost by 3 percentage points in 88. In 90, he won by 16 because they listened and they learned who he was. And now the last 11 morning consult polls have said that Bernie is the number one favorite senator in the country.
Right.
So, and he won 86% of the vote in the Democratic primary against Hillary in Vermont. So what's happened is, and I just wish we had more time all the time, as people have gotten to know him, they've realized he's not this caricature that the media sets out, that this is totally focused on democratic socialism. He's funny. He's warm. When it was an interview in which he was asked, what would you want to be remembered for? And he said, compassion. And I thought, oh, that was a real surprise that he said that. But that's true. That's who he is. He's compassionate.
He says, I hear the words in every speech here, love and compassion. I never see that soundbite on the evening news.
No.
What else can you tell us about him that that people should know, or maybe you said to him, you should show this side of you a little more, or whatever.
Well, he's a pretty private person.
He's very private.
His favorite thing is to come home and be with the kids and the grandkids and play baseball outside, or soccer, or touch football, or play chess, or share
Sit in the chair
classical
and watch
music.
TV.
No, he doesn't watch TV at all.
That's the other thing I've noticed here on the trail. Just all of us trying to keep up with him. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But he's always moving.
Yeah.
Like we're backstage or whatever, and there's like two more speakers or whatever. He's moving around. He's looking at his notes. He's like, and I said to one of the people on our crew here, I said, "This is how, if you want to live a long life,
Yeah.
do it." He is not sitting down in a chair.
No, he is not. He does when he plays chess or checkers with the kids.
That's when you can get him seated.
Right. And he has his iPad out and he shows them, he has them listen to classical music and talks about it. Or, I don't think people have ever seen him. Anytime they come up with a question or they're interested in something, he'll look it up and show great baseball players back in the day, or great politicians talking about things, leaders. He's an educator. I think most people don't understand that about him, but professionally and personally, he likes to explain history to the community and to his grandchildren. Cole, our oldest, at one point said, "Yeah, Grandpa always teaches us something." He always. So, those are things that you might not know. He's a really doting grandfather, a wonderful father, and I think he's a great husband. So I'm lucky.
Yeah. I noticed too, just his. He's very affected when people tell him stories of their lives.
He's very present. He actually listens.
He's actually listening.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This is somebody who was raised in the working class. This is somebody who was not raised with money. Mm-hmm. And again, because, he's talked more about it this year than in 2016, but he and his brother lived a pretty
3.5 room rent controlled apartment. They slept in the living room as they grew up,
They didn't have bedrooms.
No. But that was fine, as far as he was concerned. But what's interesting is, people talk about age, and I think just like fine wine, Bernie has gotten better with age. He was more dogmatic earlier on in his career, more intellectual, more focused on what the facts were. Mm-hmm. And now he's so much more focused. He knows the facts. They're second nature to him. But he's focused on the impact of reality on the people. He's focused on the people. He listens, he learns, and then he acts on that. And he's done more introspection about his earlier years, thinking about that. Just his, he early on, I don't remember him talking so much about his father. He talked about his mother and her having heart surgery and dying young and never realizing her dream of owning a home. But he's thought more about his dad as time has gone on, about him coming from Poland at 17 with very little money, hardly any skills, hardly any education, but he came to make a better life. It was really very difficult there. A lot of his family was wiped out in the Holocaust.
Right. We all kind of grew up with cousins.
Mm-hmm.
And families who had one side or both sides of the family wiped out. That extended family where, we have family back in Ireland, we have family here and all this.
No.
That's not the struggle of his family, of him being raised, and then becoming who he became. It's I don't know, it's quite remarkable.
Well, we went back to Poland with his brother and his wife to go learn more. And Bernie tends to not look back or focus on himself at all.
Right.
So that experience, we went to Auschwitz. We met with people that knew his family. It was very moving and very instructive from a personal point of view to what he knew intellectually, how delicate, how fragile democracy is, and
Right.
how much difference one election can make.
Right. Right.
So, and how people can be moved in ways that you would never dream of.
Right.
So that made him, in 2016, he recognized Donald Trump, and he knew that he had to do everything he could to defeat him then. That's why he did, 39, 41.
Yeah, somewhere between 39 and 42 rallies for
right.
Hillary.
Yeah.
These are all Hillary rallies he's doing for her. Why does this get, again, this is another weird trope.
But see, that's one of the things that's really bad about politics today. Somebody says it, they repeat it enough, the establishment repeats it enough, the media repeats it enough, it becomes fact, even if it's totally untrue. He did quite a bit. And the other thing that's factually incorrect is that, well, Bernie's supporters, so many of Bernie's supporters wouldn't vote for Hillary. Well, according to the exit polls, they say that 12% of his supporters might not have voted for Hillary.
Yeah.
And that includes very safe blue states.
Yes.
And I think people made that choice when they were in very safe
Sure.
states. Now, some people made that choice otherwise. But with Hillary, 25% of her supporters didn't vote for
Wouldn't vote for
Obama.
Barack Obama. They voted for John McCain.
They voted for John
Right.
McCain, and
Again,
but
another
Obama
fact that
ran
never
a
gets
great
stated.
exactly. But Obama ran a really good campaign, and he won anyway with twice as many support. So that's never talked about.
Right.
And so it's I guess I and Bernie too are very fair-minded people. We want just the facts, just make sure things are told. That the truth is told, that the process is fair. If that happens, then we're fine, no matter what happens.
At these rallies and these events that we've had across the state this week, another thing, the Bernie bro thing, that trope.
A lot of women in the
A lot. Are you kidding? We've been counting.
Yeah.
And it's about, depending where we are, 55% women, 45% men. Some places 60-40 in favor of there's more women.
And you know what's so exciting, Michael? Just seeing the people who are donors. They're Walmart workers, they're Amazon workers, they're nurses, they're teachers. They're people that Bernie is really trying to help. And it's getting through to the people. And as you say, it's getting through to the people on top too. And they're just not saying, we don't want this. They're saying, oh, it's a ludicrous idea, or Bernie can't win. And we'll see what happens. We hope that we will have a vibrant democracy during this election, that people will participate and be allowed to participate, that there were some difficulties in the caucuses, not here in Iowa, but in caucuses and primaries in terms of voter suppression.
All of us who went through, I think, 2016 are very much on top of this. But we also know that because they are going to let the superdelegates back into the convention if there's a second ballot.
Yeah.
So we have to win this on the first ballot.
Yes.
And we need to reach out to the Warren supporters in this, starting when they're in the gymnasium at the caucus on Monday, and the candidate corners are all around the gym.
And many others. That won't be viable at the
yes,
in various places.
Look at how Amy Klobuchar has worked with Bernie on the whole pharmaceutical thing. I mean, these are people that have
Tulsi Gabbard, Andrew Yang, Tom Steyer. I mean, they all have very good points in various, and if they're not viable, we would welcome their supporters.
Right.
I think the concern here, Michael, is by having so many people in the Democratic primary, getting 50.1% of the delegates on the first ballot is essential in order to not have the superdelegates overturn the wishes of the people.
the will of the people.
Yeah. My hope is, and as I said earlier, we just want a fair process, a fair shake. And I think that people are expecting that whoever walks in with plurality of votes will get the nomination.
Right. We've been through this so many times where they go the safe route. Joe Biden is running these ads now. Pick the safe candidate. I'm the safe candidate.
But the safe candidate, Michael, is the one that Trump can't portray as inauthentic or hypocritical. That's Bernie. The safe one is the one that can go toe-to-toe with him on trade and working people, the impacts of our economy on the working class, whereas he had a faux populist message. Bernie has a real populist message.
Right.
And I think having truth go against dishonesty is the best way. It's the safest way to win this election.
Yes,
so,
that to me, that is safe. What's not safe is every time we've tried to put up a candidate that voted for the Iraq War, that candidate has lost. I'm tired of losing. Well, you and I, we're heading out to southeastern Iowa today.
Yeah.
We're going to do a couple of town halls together. And so my last question is this, because I've got to stop watching that New York Times endorsement show, because I'm a big fan of comedy and satire, and where Bernie was just classic Bernie. And I'm not going to do his voice in front of you because it'll be way too embarrassing. But the way he said that, he says he told these New York Times reporters he's never going to send them a birthday card or call them and wish them a happy birthday, because he's just not that kind of guy. Just so he can get a good story.
Not good at backslapping.
Not good at that. So he get a good story for himself if he just calls them up and wishes them a happy birthday. And he said the word bullshit on TV. I've never heard him swear.
Yeah, he doesn't
like
do that much. Yeah,
not certainly not on TV. Yeah. But that you could just see that he's just isn't going to take any shit, and he's not going to blow smoke at you.
Right. He went in there knowing full well, and he's wherever he is when he's interviewed, he's just Bernie. He just says what he thinks, and he means what he says, and he does it.
So he walked in there, and by the way, you could see his walk in on 8th Avenue there into the Times Building. He looks like he's being led to the gulag.
Well, he figured, he wasn't sure he was going to go. And I said, they're going to be having transcripts. They're going to be having the video of the interview, and your point of view won't be represented. And he said, oh, good point. There's no way that they're ever going to endorse me, so it's a waste of time. But you're right. My point of view has to be in the mix so that people can hear.
So, yeah, especially the public watching this. You see roughly 6 candidates that are good versions of each other. Mm-hmm. And then there's the one.
Because you look at that and you can see he's the outlier there, that he's very much the loner. And yet you look at him in Iowa and New Hampshire, Nevada, and California and Vermont. Yeah. He's not alone. No. So people say, oh, nobody supports him. That's what
and yet he keeps going up in the polls.
Yeah.
Not only the highest approval rating of any of the 100 senators. For the last number of years, they've been asking this question. I don't know if it's the Reuters poll of who's the elected official, the politician that you admire the most. Mm-hmm. Number one.
Yep.
Every year.
Yes.
And that's across all. That's Republicans, Democrats.
Yep.
Number one is Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
What I have seen here in Iowa is that he is beloved.
Mm-hmm. That by some, we hope a majority.
Yes. Well. Yeah, you don't know. I mean, mm-hmm. I'm on the road. I see it. I see it on the mm-hmm. sidewalk. I see it backstage. I see it with the crowds. And I've seen a different version than what is being presented necessarily on the evening news. But this was a long way of ending our podcast today by asking you if he's ever given you a birthday card.
In fact, no. He's given me birthday presents. He takes me out, but no Hallmark.
He doesn't need
cards.
Hallmark to say what he thinks for him. He actually writes or does his own thing.
Right.
Yeah.
All the time. I mean, when we got married, we worked on our vows. We wrote 2 different versions. On the morning of, I was like, Bernie, which ones are we going to use on the phone? We weren't together. Yeah. And, we'll go with this one. Okay. So I get up there and I know pretty much my vows, and we had thought them through. He forgot all of it, and he gave the best ones, just totally from the heart. He just said, right. So I said, why did we even bother to do that? Because Bernie speaks from the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think it's important right now, Michael. People think if people say Bernie can't win and that he's not liked by anybody, it's because he's not liked by those who don't want change, who are quite happy with the status quo. There's no doubt about that. That
Right.
the people that are happy with the way things are going don't like Bernie. The people who have concerns about their health care, concerns about their children, their parents, their education, climate change especially, really do like Bernie because they understand he's there to fight for them, to transform this country to be the country that we all want it to be, where we value each other for our diversity instead of in spite of it, and that we want a civil society, one that we can be proud of. I want to be as proud of this country as I am about my husband, and I think we will do.
On that note, thank you very much for this time.
Thank you, Michael. And thanks for the podcast. See, you were told, too, it was going to take a long time to reach so many people, and that's...
No, I know. I'm still kind of pinching myself that a couple of microphones and a few ideas, and here we are. I'm grateful to the people listening, and if you are listening right now, this has been Dr. Jane Sanders. It's been good, and I will not wait for my birthday card to come to me in April.
Right.
I'm
okay.
just saying.
Sorry about that.
No, it's good to know in advance that there are more important things to do. I want the real deal, and that's what we have here. And God bless you and him, and
thank you,
and for what you're doing for this country. But thank you, everybody who's listening, and to Rumble. This is Rumble with Michael Moore, and we'll be back at you here probably tomorrow. We'll see you then.
Take care, Michael.
Thank you, Jane.